kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is you over 30 years ago.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
And this is your mom when you drive her back from therapy.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Roles change without us noticing, and in your new role, we help you help. AARP gives you the information to help care for your mom so that you can have patience with her, just like she did with you. Visit aarp.org/caregiving or call 1-877-333-5885 to get practical health and wellness tips to provide even better care for your loved one.
Are we there yet?
Remember, visit aarp.org/caregiving. AARP, we help you help. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese.
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Do current market conditions have you nervous? Our experienced team of financial professionals at Heritage Harbor Financial Associates understands that no two investors are alike. We all have different goals, needs, and appetites for risk. That's why the one-size-fits-all approach does not work, especially when planning for retirement. At Heritage Harbor Financial Associates, we analyze your unique investment style so that you can work toward your individual retirement goals on your terms. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates can help you take steps to reach your retirement goals by providing a wide array of financial products to fit your needs, even for the risk adverse. Give us a call at 631-331-6599 to learn more or to set up an appointment with one of our financial professionals. You can also find us on the web at hhfa.org or on Facebook at facebook.com/hhfa.org. Our number again is 631-331-6599. That's 631-331-6599. Investments in stock, bonds, and mutual funds and variable annuities are not FDIC insured and are subject to fluctuation in value and market risk, including loss of principal. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates offers securities through AXA Advisors, LLC, New York, New York. Member FINRA, SIPC, annuity and insurance products offered through AXA Network, LLC.
Be fearless at MMA Long Island and Seituha Karate. Located at 28 Colt Court in Ronkonkoma, MMA Long Island is the martial arts school for you if you want to learn combat-proven techniques, build confidence, discipline, and self-esteem while learning real martial arts to fight back against bullies, predators, and peer pressure. MMA Long Island offers group and private lessons for all ages and levels in traditional Goju-Ryu Karate, MMA, and self-defense. MMA Long Island is one of Long Island's most affordable martial arts schools. There are no promotion, belt, or membership fees, and family discounts are available. All classes are taught by 7th degree black belt Sensei John Benedict with over 30 years teaching experience. So whether you want to get in the ring or protect yourself and your family, MMA Long Island can help you reach your goals. Visit MMALongIsland.com. That's MMALongIsland.com or call or text 516-381-9660. That's 516-381-9660.
Edward Lehman has been a trusted insurance advisor for over 16 years with insurance solutions for auto, home, commercial, life, and retirement. He's located at 54 Sunnyside Boulevard, Suite H in Plainview. That's just 1,000 feet south of 495. Local agent, local advice. The time to think about insurance is before you need it. So do yourself a favor and before you pay your next insurance bill, give Ed and his team a call, 516-935-3900, or visit him online at www.allstate.com/EL. Edward H. Lehman Insurance is your trusted insurance advisor.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Uh-huh, okay.
Well, we were building a bonfire, and I saw some, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Hey, guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. Waking up every day, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair to the car to get him to therapy on time, it's no small task between the doctors and the diagnosis, but nothing can disable this love. This is my big brother, my hero. He's part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. See, there's no time for tired. This starts again tomorrow. He'll be waiting for me. I wake up for him. I know he needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community, or call 877-333-5885. Caregiving Resource Center. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Number 70!
We're talking about practice.
Hello, you play to win the game.
The Yankees are champions of baseball!
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
3, 2, 1, happy 2000! No time on the clock, and the Patriots have won Super Bowl 36. Jordan open, Chicago with the lead!
Worldwide Sports Radio Network presents Below the Mark.
Hello, Long Island, New York, and around the country. This is Below the Mic. We are live every single Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time. You can call us at 631-965-4990. Remember, guys, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Download our app. How do you do that? You go to iOS, which is Apple Application Store, WWSRN, or you can go to Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Well. I will say this. There is a lot of conversation for New York sports. Not only today, for the last couple of days, the New York Jets look like they have their man. I know it hasn't come out yet, but it looks like Robert Saleh is the next New York head coach for the New York Jets. And there was a big trade that just happened about, an hour ago. We're going to get into that in just 1 second. At 6:30, we'll be talking to HockeyBuzz Vegas Golden Knights writer Jeff Paul. And at 7:15, yes, at 7:15, we will be talking to Islanders blog and Empire Sports media writer Rob Taub, right? Taub. Okay, so he will be joining us a little bit later in the show.
Finally got your Islanders guy after all the Rangers guys.
Well, we're going to get an Islander guy, and I'm sure he'll be pretty much straightforward, and I'm sure he'll be taking shots at the New York Islanders like the Ranger writers. But we're not going to get into that first. And we usually do sports and entertainment news, but today is a very, very special day. And why is it a special day? Because the New York Knicks aren't the laughing stocks right now of the NBA. They're really not. You could say whatever you want on what has happened or what just transpired. And I want to get to that in just 1 second. But before we do that, Speedy, did you have a good night's sleep last night?
Yes, I did.
Did you dream about anything? Did you have any wet dreams or anything like that?
No, my dreams were not wet.
So you didn't pee yourself? You didn't?
I did not pee myself.
You didn't dream about a beautiful woman? Did you dream about anything?
Yeah, it was a weird dream. I was underground for the most part. It was strange.
Underground where?
Underground, like I was living like underground, like counterculture society, like off the grid type thing. It was weird.
Anyways, well, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, Carl just said James Harden to the Nets, trade Kyrie for a first-round pick. Trust me, that's not going to happen. Well, anyways, about an hour ago, something transpired in the NBA. And this has been going on with the NBA for the last, 12 years. It all started with LeBron James leaving Cleveland and taking his talents to Miami with Chris Bosh and the great Dwayne Wade. But it's not even that. For the last couple of years, NBA players have been forcing themselves out of the organizations they play for to build super teams. Teams that are unfathomable. Teams that you wouldn't believe that would be put together and driven together as a superstar team to win championships. You've seen it with Golden State, with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. We have seen it with all these different teams, and now you're seeing all these different teams slowly but surely build these super teams. Today, and the last couple of weeks, really before the season, Houston's James Harden has been talking about being traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Everybody knows that him and Kevin Durant are good friends. They work out together in the offseason. He never wanted to leave OKC when they traded him all the way over there to the Rockets. and he left OKC with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. But it's not even that. And Speedy, move your phone because it's making sounds. What really bothers me about this trade is the Brooklyn Nets. Yes, the Brooklyn Nets traded away their future for one player. For one player. James Harden. A guy that doesn't play defense. A guy that hogs the ball, demands the ball, goes to the line a lot, shoots very, very well on the perimeter. He's not a very good three-point shooter. He's a good perimeter shooter. And he's a good foul shooter. They traded away, and listen to this. They traded away Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, 3 first-round draft picks, and an opportunity to swap picks for 2021, 2023, 2025, and 2027. In a 4-team trade, which sent Jarrett Allen, Taurean Prince to the Cavs, Pacers getting Karis LeVert and a second-rounder, and the Rockets getting Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, and how do you pronounce Rodions Crooks from the Brooklyn Nets, and obviously all the draft stock that they got. Oh, and by the way, a first-round draft pick, an unprotected first-round draft pick for the Milwaukee Bucks in 2022. You're talking about the Brooklyn Nets. Remember when the Brooklyn Nets did this? What was it?
10 years ago.
10 years ago when they traded away 5 first-round draft picks for Kevin Garnett. Another Kevin. Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. I call him Paul Pease because that's what he was. Paul Pierce and the Jet. They didn't win anything. They didn't even get out of the first round. The first round that they got out of was the first year against the Chicago Bulls.
No, Toronto.
I'm sorry, the Toronto Raptors.
That was the only year, though. You're right.
If any Brooklyn Net fan thinks that this was a good trade for the organization, well, then you guys don't know basketball. You're lost. Clarence from the Wise Guys, and he posts a load of things and a load of crap, okay? And I love Clarence. I have a lot of respect for Clarence. I really do. Love his show, love his personality, love everything about him. But how could you go on social media and say this was a good move for the Brooklyn Nets? You have no bench, you have no size anymore, and you don't play defense. And who would have thought that they would make this trade knowing that you have Mike D'Antoni with, by the way, he did not play well for Mike D'Antoni because they never got to the finals. Never, with Mike D'Antoni as the head coach of the Rockets. He knows James Harden very, very well. And you have Steve Nash as your head coach and Amari Stoudemire. Who in their wildest dreams thinks this was a good move for the Brooklyn Nets? The Cavs got better. The Indiana Pacers, I wouldn't say got better, got younger. Mm-hmm. And really, the Rockets, the Rockets made the trade of the century.
Yeah.
This bodes well for the Rockets because they still have John Wall. They still have a core of players. You add Victor Oladipo to that core of players, a very big-time superstar player that can score, actually plays defense, unlike somebody. I mean, this team, the Rockets are much better right now on paper than they were with James Harden. So why does any Brooklyn Net fan today can sit here and say, wow, the Brooklyn Nets are going to be sick. They're going to be awesome. The Brooklyn Nets put themselves in highway hell. That's what they did. And Sean Marks practically lost his job because now you're depending on a rookie coach. You're depending on 3 superstars that honestly, run the league. They have big mouths, both of them, all three of them.
All three.
One of them that has 7 or 8 Twitter feeds has been denying it since day one. James Harden that plays whenever he feels like it, including the playoffs when he doesn't even show up. And Kyrie Irving, who believes the earth is flat, okay, who hasn't showed up to a game in the last 3 games. Why does any Brooklyn Net fan think that this is a good trade? Speedy, please give me something that you can really bring up into this conversation that could really sell me that the Brooklyn Nets won on this trade.
I don't know where to begin with this. I completely agree with you, where 4 first-round picks, 4 pick swaps is insane. That's even more than what the Thunder did with Paul George. They got 4 first-round picks. They didn't get all those pick swaps. That's insane. And we want to compare what Toronto got with Kawhi Leonard, which at the time I thought was a lot. That's nothing compared to what happened here. And will those egos have their issues with each other is always another question. Maybe it works. Who knows? We never know with NBA players. It's the biggest wild card with anything. You could tell with baseball, you could tell with football a lot of the time if these players are going to work. With the NBA, it's always a crapshoot. So the small chance it could work is maybe the only chance, but I don't see it. And they don't have any depth whatsoever. So good luck in the much better, not great, but much better Eastern Conference playoffs.
I mean, you have Milwaukee, you have Miami. I mean, the Knicks are playing good basketball right now. The Cavaliers have played good. You have the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah. They've looked good. I mean, the Eastern Conference is very talented. They're getting better. The 76ers. This is a bad move for the Brooklyn Nets. It really is. It sets their team back. And why would any Net fan like this? Because you give up 2 young, talented players. You have Spencer Dinwiddie that's out for the season. How are you going to re-sign Spencer Dinwiddie now? Because you're going to have to give James Harden a contract. He's going to expect between $40 and $43 million next year. You're paying Kyrie Irving. You're paying Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is going to be on the decline in 2 years. Kyrie Irving is already on the decline. and you have James Harden, who's 31, 32 years old, who will be on the decline in 2 years. So where does this benefit the Brooklyn Nets? If the Brooklyn Nets don't win a championship this year, which honestly, they don't match up very well against the Lakers. They still don't match up very well against the Clippers. They don't match up against the Nuggets. Who do they match up well where you can actually bet on this team? And they don't play defense. Who's going to play defense on his team? Kevin Durant? Jordan is an old man. He's a geezer. You know James Harden doesn't play defense. You know Kyrie Irving is a lackluster when it comes to the defense side of the ball too. So where are they playing defense? And when they play a top 2-guard team where that can drive to the hole and absolutely dominate the game in the paint, how are they going to stop them?
It's pretty sad when your best defensive player is probably Kevin Durant, too. We don't know what he's going to be all season long. Their next best perimeter defender is probably Joe Harris, who's not a good defender either.
I don't know why anybody thinks this is, and I'm reading all over social media, okay? And I listen, I read all the different writers and, oh, wow, this is a great trade. This is a big trade. This helps all the teams. It helps everybody but the Brooklyn Nets. It helps everybody but the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets gave up 5 pieces for one. They gave up 5 pieces, and let's do the average. Karis LeVert averages 18.5 points a game. 18.5. So that's 18 points a game that you're taking out of your lineup. Then you give up Jared Allen, who averages about 9 or 10 points a game and averages about 12 to 13 rebounds a game.
And actually plays defense.
And plays defense and blocks. So you're taking that out of the perspective of the game. Then you're giving up, who else did they give up? They gave up the
Karooks, who's a good 3-point shooter.
3-point shooter off the bench, who gives you what, 7-8 points a game?
Yeah, and then Taurean Prince, who's a decent bench player too. He's probably in the 8-9 range.
You give up 3 first-round draft picks. Milwaukee gives up. Milwaukee out of the
Milwaukee pick, I think, came from Indiana.
Indiana. So the Rockets win in every aspect of this trade. How could anybody sit here today and say, "Oh my God, I can't wait to watch the Nets"? I can't wait to watch the Nets bomb. I can't wait to see Sean Marks get fired just like King did a couple of years ago and be compared as one of the worst GMs in NBA history.
Who needs Jersey Shore for reality TV and a soap opera when you could have the Nets?
I mean, just look at the San Antonio Spurs. Sean Marks comes to the San Antonio Spurs. Would you ever see the San Antonio Spurs make a trade like this?
Right.
Would you ever see something like this from the San Antonio Spurs? The answer is no.
Yeah, they even got not great, but semi-decent value back for when they traded Kawhi Leonard. It was nowhere close. I thought it was big at the time, but obviously nowhere close to what this was.
This is a horrible trade for the Brooklyn Nets. And the Brooklyn Nets should be ashamed of themselves. Sean Marks should be ashamed of himself. You're putting Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, two personalities with a rookie coach, a coach that has no experience. I don't care how good of a player he was, how great of a point guard he was, how great of a Hall of Famer he was. It doesn't matter. You have two rookie coaches on that bench in Amari Stoudemire and Steve Nash, and then you add Mike D'Antoni, who doesn't even believe in defense. How does this work? Tell me, what makes sense in this trade? And the answer is zilch. How could you be happy about this? The only team could be happy about this is the New York Knicks, because they're not the laughingstock in New York anymore. Nobody's going to make fun of the Knicks. The Knicks are stockpiling on draft picks. They still have 6 draft picks left in the next 4 years. They're building right now. They found a superstar in Randall, it looks like. They have players, Barrett. They have Obi Toppin, who hasn't really played all season yet. You've added Quigley and all these young players that they have. They're one of the youngest teams in the NBA. Kevin Knox is starting to look like a player. And then there's the Brooklyn Nets, who have overpaid, overpriced, over talent of players over there with the Brooklyn Nets. No bench, no size, no rebounding, no defense.
I will also even say this, too. When was the last time the Knicks ever made a trade this bad, this lopsided that you saw?
This bad? Yeah. I mean, the last one was Carmelo Anthony, and even that
I don't even think that was even that lopsided in comparison to this. That was probably about the same what the Kawhi Leonard deal was.
They gave up 5 guys for Carmelo Anthony.
Right. Oh, yeah, but still.
And none of those guys became anything.
Right.
None of them.
So put that into perspective. That's probably closer to the Kawhi Leonard deal than that was. And like I said, this is probably like 3 times, 5 times worse in terms of what they had to give up.
How could you sit here today and be happy? In the NBA, yeah, you're putting 3 superstars together. One that hasn't played in 3 games because he decided to just completely disappear. And another guy that didn't want to play, actually didn't show up to practices, actually just went up there to the press yesterday and said he doesn't want to play for this team anymore. He's done. There's no way fixing this. He practically pushed his way out of there to go to the Nets. And then you have Kevin Durant, who decided in so-called thought that he did not want to be a Knick, even though the Knicks didn't even offer him a contract. And he made fun of the New York Knicks in the offseason. He goes to a team where he's still the same player. He's still an awesome offensive player, but he still has a lack of defensive style of game. There is nothing happy about this trade for a Brooklyn Nets fan. Nothing. There really is nothing. The only fact that you got to see 3 ball hogs shoot an overpriced ball hog, shoot the ball game in and game out.
Carl says, turn up the AC in the arena. It will be the best defense. Yeah, you're probably right, Carl. I mean, unless you're playing LeBron, then turn down the air conditioner because we know how he turned out in that against the Spurs.
And who's to say the Brooklyn Nets are going to be able to sign James Harden in the offseason? He's going to want between $40 and $50 million a year. This is his last big contract. Are the Brooklyn Nets going to find a way to pay him? So that quite possibly could happen is they have James Harden for 1 year. They miss out on winning a championship, and they lose James Harden in free agency. And they give up all those players and picks.
Not only that, if it doesn't work with the chemistry, they could even lose Kyrie Irving. They could lose Kevin Durant. They might want out too. And all of a sudden, you have nothing. I mean, nothing. It's not like you have any picks to rebuild with, like these other teams do that have made the smart trades.
Have you ever played poker before, Speedy?
Yes.
Okay, so this is like a poker move for Sean Marks. A matter of fact, this is a dumb poker move. And he has nothing in his hand, and he's betting against the guy with a royal flush.
Right. This is like going all in on the first hand when you have, a 2 pair or something like that? That's what this is.
I mean, this is horrible. This is a horrible trade. And I can't even sit here and say, you know what? I can't wait to watch James Harden play with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Because the answer is, I know what's going to happen. There's only one ball on a basketball court. One basketball on a basketball court. And you have 3 guys that are going to be demanding the ball. 2 of them that play the point, okay? And 2 of them that do the same thing at the point position. love driving to the hole and drawing fouls. So you have two guys doing the same thing at the perimeter. Is this the best perimeter offense that we're going to see in the NBA? Probably is. I mean, you're going to get to see James Harden and Kyrie Irving, two guys that can average between 25 and 27 points a game. But you're not going to see that with three players. There's not enough shots to be made. One of these guys are going to have to take a step back. One of these guys are only going to be able to average between 16 and 17 points. You think Kyrie Irving's going to do that?
Well,
do you think Kyrie Irving is going to do that and say, you know what? This is my team, James. You're coming to my team.
Outside of Durant, the other two are all ball dominant too. Like, they need the ball in their hands to be successful. Off the ball, they don't move around like they should. Like you see some of these other players like Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, guys like that do. They don't move around like that either. Outside of Durant, they all need the ball.
I can't sit here and say this was a good move for the Brooklyn Nets. I can't say the only teams that won on this are the three teams besides the Brooklyn Nets. Even Indiana won on this trade. They got Karis LeVert, a young Oladipo, a guy that I think could be the future of that organization offensively. I mean, he averages 18.5 points a game right now playing with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Now he's the number one option on that team. So what do you think he's going to average? 25, 26 points. What do you think James Harden's going to be averaging right now with the Brooklyn Nets? 25, 26. So why would you make this move? Two players that don't play defense in the playoffs, two players that have not won anything except with a superstar, with a Kevin Durant or a LeBron James. And Kevin Durant might not be the same player in the playoffs. So why would the Brooklyn Nets do this? Oh my God. Sean Marks, who has the same last name as me, okay? I mean, I don't even want to discuss this. This is an embarrassment. You first fire Kenny Atkinson. You fire him after what he did for you for almost a year and a half. He took a team that had no business making the playoffs win 42 games. 42 games in his rookie season as a head coach for the Brooklyn Nets. The next year, they had a winning record going into the trade deadline. You fire him before the playoffs. You fire him, and then you bring in a rookie coach in the offseason, which made absolutely no sense. You heard Greg Popovich, that completely disappeared. And then you bring in a rookie coach like Steve Nash, who's never coached in his life. How does this make sense? How could you sit back as a Brooklyn Net, all the great things that Sean Marks did in the last couple of years, and sit back and say, oh my God, this is a great move. This is a horrendous move. This set this team back again for another 7-8 years after these three idiots ruined this team.
You'd think they learned after doing it once, but no.
They absolutely set their team back for the next 7 years. And Net fans are going to jump for joy on this. The Knicks are licking their chops right now. The New York Knicks, as an organization, is licking their chops. Because as a Knicks fan, they're not the laughingstock in New York anymore. I know everybody says now there'll be more New York Knicks fans going to the Brooklyn Nets. How do you figure? Why? Because James Harden,
kids maybe.
James Harden's there, Kevin Durant's there, Kyrie Irving's there.
No, good Knicks fans are gonna still laugh at that like we are.
I can't sit here and say that this makes any sense. As an analyst, as a broadcaster, as a fan, I would not be happy if I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan. How could you be happy for this? And anybody that isn't a fan of the Brooklyn Nets, they love it. For what reason? I see Clarence speaking his piece on all over social media. And Clarence, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear that you think that this was a good move and this is a winning move. This is a losing move. This is a no-win move. You added two players, two brainiacs to this organization in Kyrie Irving and now James Harden. Two guys that don't get along to the public, don't get along with the press, don't like to speak to the press. And by the way, Kevin Durant, he speaks to the press, but he answers with one-word sentences.
Marshawn Lynch 2.0.
Exactly, Carl. They're going all in with 3 players. 3. Not a team. And let me ask you a question. When was the last time this worked besides the Miami Heat? When was the last time this worked? And I'm not talking about the Golden State Warriors, because the Golden State trade. That wasn't a trade. They signed Kevin Durant.
So far, it hasn't worked for the Clippers either with Paul George. They give up a lot too.
And they had the 3 players on that team. Right. They had Klay Thompson, they had Draymond Green, they had Steph Curry. When was the last time this worked? Miami. That's it. That was the last time. That was the only time this worked. And by the way, Kevin Durant is not LeBron James. Hold on. James Harden is not Dwayne Wade. And Kyrie Irving isn't Chris Bosh. Let's be honest. You had the best power forward in the league in Chris Bosh. You had the best 2-guard in the NBA, or second best 2-guard in the NBA in Dwayne Wade. And you had LeBron James, the greatest basketball player in the NBA. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. In 3, and I said it in 3 times, because you have 3 players that care about one thing and one thing only, themselves. I mean, I gotta laugh at this.
All I can do is laugh this whole segment. It's just hilarious.
It's a joke. It is a joke. As a New York Knicks fan, I'm loving this. I am loving this. How could you not love this as a New York Knicks fan? I'm loving this. Because now the Knicks aren't the laughing stock of New York basketball anymore.
And if you would,
it's the Brooklyn Nets.
And if you would have told us last summer as Knicks fans when we missed out on Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving that this is what was going to transpire, and the Knicks would have been in that same circumstance, giving up probably RJ Barrett, Frank Ntilikina, Kevin Knox topping this year, and that's what all they had to give up, and that's what they would have had to give up, I would have said, all right, fine. You can have them.
This is a win-win for the New York Knicks fan. This is a win-win for the New York Knicks. And the Knicks seem like the smarter organization right now. Because you hire Tom Thibodeau, not Steve Nash, a guy that's won before, has one of the best winning records in NBA history. I think he's 6 all time. Yeah. Okay. And then you added Rose, who's a very respectable agent in the NBA. And you added Wesley, who's very respected by all the players in the NBA. And you're building with Perry. I mean, the organization has pretty much set themselves up in a good situation with Obi Toppin, Quigley, RJ Barrett, and some of the young players they have. And now the Brooklyn Nets traded away all their young players for an old 31, 32-year-old superstar that doesn't shut up and doesn't speak to the press with respect. I can't wait until this team with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant start to lose together. And I can't wait to hear what the press is going to do, torture them, torment them. And I can't wait to see what they're going to say or what they're going to do when the situation happens, when they get eliminated in the playoffs by a second-tier team.
I can't wait for this Nets team to fall flat on their face, just like Kyrie Irving's version of the earth.
When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking to HockeyBuzz Vegas Golden Knights writer Jeff Paul here on Below the Mic.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Do current market conditions have you nervous? Our experienced team of financial professionals at Heritage Harbor Financial Associates understands that no 2 investors are alike. We all have different goals, needs, and appetites for risk. That's why the one-size-fits-all approach does not work, especially when planning for retirement. At Heritage Harbor Financial Associates, we analyze your unique investment style so that you can work toward your individual retirement goals on your terms. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates can help you take steps to reach your retirement goals by providing a wide array of financial products to fit your needs, even for the risk adverse. Give us a call at 631-331-6599 to learn more or to set up an appointment with one of our financial professionals. You can also find us on the web at hhfa.org or on Facebook at facebook.com/hhfa.org. Our number again is 631-331-6599. That's 631-331-6599. Investments in stock, bonds, and mutual funds and variable annuities are not FDIC insured and are subject to fluctuation in value, market market risk, including loss of principal. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates offers securities through AXA Advisors, LLC, New York, New York. Member FINRA, SIPC, annuity, and insurance products offered through AXA Network, LLC.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
As you guys know, this is Below the Mic. We are live every single Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You can call us at 631-965-4990. You can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Download our app, iOS, which is Apple, WWSRN, or Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Well, guys, for 30 minutes, you heard my rant about the Brooklyn Nets. And there's really nothing to say about the Brooklyn Nets, but they're a laughingstock of the NBA right now. And any Brooklyn Net or New York fan that can honestly can say they're going to go from the New York Knicks to become a fan of the Brooklyn Nets are complete idiots. That's all I'm going to say about that. Absolute jackasses. But anyways, we're going to move away from basketball and we're going to move to hockey. Thank God, because hockey season starts tonight. We are actually watching right now the Philadelphia Flyers versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's 2-1 Philadelphia right now. And we have a special guest. We are now talking to HockeyBuzz of the Vegas Golden Knights writer, Jeff Paul. What's going on, Jeff?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Well, as you can hear my rant and my attack to the Brooklyn Nets after that horrendous, ridiculous trade that completely sets that organization back for another 10 years. We've seen this before, and we're seeing it again. Why are we not surprised? But how are you doing? How are you and your family doing with this pandemic?
We're doing okay. Just trying to make it by. Unfortunately, not getting as much hockey access as I might be used to the last couple of years, but trying to make it work and getting used to seeing players on Zoom instead of being in the room with them. So it's a work in progress, but we're getting through it.
Well, that's always a good thing. So let's get into the Vegas Knights. And the Vegas Knights, since they've been an expansion team, this team has been one of the best teams in hockey. Absolutely incredible. It seems like they find a goalie wherever they look. I mean, they get Marc-Andre Fleury in the expansion draft. He brings them all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. Then they get Robin Lerner from really the New York Islanders or wherever they get him from. The Islanders completely gave up on him, and they pick him up, and he becomes a superstar with the Vegas Knights. What do you think? Why do you think that the Vegas Knights have been so lucky with the goaltending position?
Well, goaltending actually was an issue for them. Marc-Andre Fleury is not very young, so he came up with an injury or two, and they realized really quickly that the options they had to turn to weren't good enough. And that put a lot of pressure on Kelly McCrimmon last season to say, hey, if we get to the playoffs and Marc-Andre Fleury gets hurt, what are we going to do? They didn't trust Malcolm Subban. He's a great goalie. He's a great athletic goaltender, but they didn't trust the young goalie. And the fan base really gave Malcolm a hard time. If Malcolm let in a goal, it was the end of the world. If Fleury let in a goal, it didn't happen. They didn't remember that. So Malcolm got a tough draw. It's good to see that he's going to get the start today in Chicago. But they realized that the backup goaltending spot was really rough. And by going out and getting Robin Lehner, that was a big move by Kelly McCrimmon in his first year as the general manager of the team. And I was telling everybody when they picked up Robin Lehner, I said, look, this guy's going to be your number one. It's his job now. He's going to take that job. And they did a dead 50-50 split. They literally went 1 game Fleury, 1 game Lehner, 1 game Fleury, 1 game Lehner, and then COVID came, and Lehner was out playing Fleury through those games. When we came back, I said, Leonard's going to get that start the first game of the playoffs, and Lehner took it and he ran with it, and it didn't go their way, but Lehner was the guy. Not to say Marc-Andre Fleury can't play, but Robin Lehner definitely showed you what he can do and why the Islanders were so silly for letting him walk to Chicago and leave that organization. And it's hard not to think what the Islanders could have been if they did keep Robin Lehner in that organization.
So Marc-Andre Fleury has been a subject of trade rumors as well. because of the way Robin Leonard did play. Now, in this kind of season, we also saw it in the playoffs too. There was a lot of goalie platoons, like you were saying with Vegas. A lot of teams did it too, really, besides Tampa and Philly. I think really everyone else did a goalie platoon. Do you trade Fleury amidst this kind of season, a 56-game season, and try to get the best value you can for him because of what Leonard did? Or do you hang on to him and maybe platoon him maybe throughout the regular season where it's like a 60-40 split?
So naturally, I go to look at the salary cap and how much each player is making. They've got $12 million wrapped up in the net right now, which is a lot for goalies. But when you see how this schedule came out and this 56-game schedule, it's a little condensed and you're playing teams 2, 3, 4 games in a row, it's going to be a real strength of the Vegas Golden Knights having Marc-Andre Fleury there, because let's say a team lights up Robin Leonard. The next night, you can feel confident having Marc-Andre Fleury take that game and shut that team down. And it is a really good mix of styles between the two goalies. Leonard is a little more positionally dependent. He moves side to side less. He's not as flashy as Marc-Andre Fleury because he's just in the right spot. He makes the saves. He's a big body. He knows where he's going to be. Marc-Andre Fleury makes those acrobatic saves, those desperation diving saves that you've seen on SportsCenter. So if a team gets the best of Robin Leonard, odds are Marc-Andre Fleury, that contrasting style, will come in the next game and possibly shut them down because he gives you such a different look, but he's also playing at that high level that Robin Leonard plays at. So that's going to be a strength of the team this year. I think they roll with those two guys all season, and then next year they look to possibly move him due to that salary cap constraint that it creates.
We are talking to HockeyBuzz Vegas Golden Knights writer Jeff Paul. Now, Jeff, I really believe the Vegas Knights won in the offseason. They added the best or one of the best defensemen in the NHL, and Alex Pietrangelo. With the players that they have right now, Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone, Shea Theodore. I mean, this team is as talented as any team in the NHL. Were you surprised that Pietrangelo chose to go to the Golden Knights? Out of all the teams that were offering him a significant amount of money in the offseason, he chose the Golden Knights. Were you surprised that he chose the Golden Knights?
I wasn't surprised that he chose Vegas, and I wasn't surprised that they made such a hard push for him. If you see how things have gone in this short amount of time, Mark Stone was the number one trade deadline target at that trade deadline. Vegas went out, they did what they had to do to get him, and then they ink him to that huge extension about 2 hours later. So this team, the management, George McPhee, it started out with when he fleeced everybody in the expansion draft. He started it out. Kelly McCrimmon was his assistant the whole way. Now Kelly's taken over, and it's the same mentality. Let's go get these big players. Let's go make big moves. We don't care who gets mad in the meantime. We don't care if we hurt some feelings. You know, they let they let Perron walk. They let James Neal walk. They had big names leave that team after the first season, after making the Cup final. So this team has shown a culture of, we're going to chase the Cup. We're going to do it however we have to, and we don't care who we piss off in the meantime. And it's really fun to cover because it's never a dull moment. The fan base is always revved up for good or for bad, but it's really exciting, and the team definitely shows, hey, we're going to make moves. We're going to go get the big names, and Pietrangelo is about the biggest name you can get.
So they made a very interesting move during the season last year, firing Gerard Gallant right towards the end of the season, I think in February. And then they bring in Peter DeBoer, who I thought got a raw deal from the Sharks. I don't think that was the reason they were struggling last year. It was just one bad season. I just thought just a conference championship hangover type thing. But they did well in the playoffs and made it all the way to the conference final. So what did you think of the move at the time, and what do you think the long-term success will be with DeBoer there now?
Well, to start out on the DeBoer situation, the fact that San Jose thought they could let their captain go, who is one of the best American hockey players of all time, and Joe Pavelski, is just stupid. You don't let Joe Pavelski walk and they go, hey guys, we're still going to be really good. We're still going to make the playoffs. We're still going to beat Vegas. I mean, that was just asinine in itself. And you've got a bunch of defensemen on that team that are puck movers. They're offensive guys. And you're confused why Martin Jones and Aaron Dell weren't good enough goalies to make your team win. I mean, DeBoer was handcuffed there. When Gallant was let go and DeBoer was available, I kind of thought to myself, well, that'd be interesting if he came over here because he knows the division. He's had a history of success, even in New Jersey. So when he was hired, when Gallant was fired, I was a little shocked because the organization has backed him up so much. Amid all of the things that Gallant's done for good or bad, the team always seemed to be behind him. So when they did make that move, I think it might have been a product of DeBoer being there and saying, hey, we can go get Pete if we do pull the trigger on Gallant. And I think the fact that Gallant was always status quo, he didn't like to change anything. He just said, put your head down, skate hard, hit people. We'll score some goals eventually. I think it ended up doing him in because there have been games where he just goes, we're in the post-game press conference and we ask him questions. What happened? Why did the game go that way? And, oh, it was a good goalie. The goalie got the best of us. The goalie got the best of us tonight. And he even got a little testy with me one time because I was looking for a little more than what the goalie beat us because, I mean, I can't just write, hey, guys, the goalie was good and call it a day. So he actually got a little annoyed that I was looking for, hey, maybe get some traffic or things like that. But I just think it came down to a persistence to be a Gallant team. He wanted to do it his way, and that was the only way that would work. And the fact that DeBoer was sitting there and he's one of the better hockey minds in the league. You know, he's very open to change. He's very, even seeing the practices since DeBoer took over, he changed the way they practice. He's very focused in specific areas. I think there's a little more direction behind what DeBoer's doing, and you're going to see that product come out, especially this season because they had the bubble, they had all that time, they had a little bit of a camp here, but DeBoer has told us he feels really good about how the team's picking up his system and how he feels the product's going to be on the ice. He said a few days ago, he told us that it might take 2, 3, 4 games, but he doesn't think it's going to take very long before the team hits the ground running with the systems and really looks good on the ice. So it's something that I'm looking forward to seeing is a full year of Peter DeBoer and a full year of Cody Glass being able to be coached by Pete DeBoer. It'll be real fun to see how that third line produces with Cody Glass getting a full year with Pete.
We are talking to HockeyBuzz Vegas Knights writer Jeff Paul. Now, Jeff, I'm looking at these divisions, and I did not like the division transition, especially with the 56-game NHL. Gary Bettman decided to go 56 games instead of 82 games. The NBA stuck with the 82 games. Gary Bettman decided to move it to 56. I really love what Gary Bettman did throughout the playoffs, especially the round robin that he did. It made a lot of sense. I didn't like what the NBA did. I love what Gary Bettman did. But the way he set up these divisions, the Honda West, the Mass Mutual East, they're terrible names, first of all. I have no idea. And then you look at the divisions. The Islanders, and we're here in New York, the Islanders and the Rangers got robbed. Look at the division they're in. You got Boston, New Jersey, the Islanders, the Rangers, the Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh, Washington. You have like 4 teams. Only 3 teams out of each division make it. And then you look at your division right now. I mean, does it make any sense to you on what the NHL is trying to do? Anaheim, Arizona, Colorado, Los Angeles, Minnesota, San Jose, St. Louis, Vegas. The Vegas Knights are the most talented team in that division. There's no question that they are. But then you have Colorado, an up-and-coming team. You have San Jose, who a lot of people are going to be have said they're going to be very good this year, especially with the talent they have. And then there's St. Louis that won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago. Does this division transition make any sense to you?
It makes sense. You know, they're trying to cut down on the travel. And one of the guys that covers the Golden Knights, they're actually Sinbin.com. They're a pretty good independent website that covers the team as well. And he put a tweet out that showed exactly how many miles they're saving in travel. And it's insane. It's over 30,000 miles that are saved in travel from a typical schedule, you know, with the teams that they would have went to visit. So you get what he was doing there. And I also realized in each division, it looks like the top half of the division is pretty set on who the best 4 teams are and who the lower teams are. So I think it was a way to say, hey, we're going to get these 16 teams in the playoffs, and it'll be fun to watch, and we'll know these teams are in there. But there are a couple question marks and a couple teams that could surprise you, and one of those you left out of the new East Division, and they're right in New York with you. I know you guys don't look upstate, but Buffalo did some good things, and I'd be surprised if Buffalo wasn't in that 4 or 5 seed in the East, despite how good that division is, Buffalo looks like they did some good stuff. But yeah, Vegas is guaranteed a playoff spot. As much as you don't want to say guaranteed, but between Vegas, Colorado, St. Louis, that's 1, 2, 3 right there. Unless COVID hits somebody real hard, that's 1, 2, 3 easy. The 4th spot is where the real question comes: is it Minnesota? Is it a team like Anaheim, who's done a lot of good things, had a lot of good young players coming up? They brought Kevin Shattenkirk in, which is a big move for the locker room. So that 4th spot will be real interesting. You know, the Wild should get it, but then again, they're the Wild and they'll do wild things. And, you know, we'll see what happens there. But it'll be real interesting to see how 4 through 8 shakes out in the West. But yeah, 1, 2, 3 should, in my opinion, 1, 2, 3, and I'll put it out there, and some people will hate me for it, but I'm going Colorado, St. Louis, Vegas, 1, 2, 3. St. Louis adding Mike Hoffman is just insane. That's like your older brother who got all the good gifts, you know, all the years that you weren't alive, you know, and then you were born and you're the baby, and now you start getting some stuff, but he steals it from you. So St. Louis is like that older brother who's just got so many things already. And then, oh, here's Mike Hoffman, a 30-goal scorer. Let's bring him in on a tryout, and then we'll sign him to a year for $4 million. Why not? That's just insane to me. Mike Hoffman is he's insanely good, and putting him on that St. Louis team is ridiculous. They lose Alex Pietrangelo. They get Torrey Krug. It's just like, come on, guys. Like, I'm sure he needs to stop being so good at his job, because it's almost not fair to the other GMs. It's insane. That team's just constantly replenishing. He got Perron back, like I said, a couple years ago, and Perron's been great for them. It's just, I mean, if I put on a Blues jersey, odds are I'm going to be at least a 4th liner at the AHL level. So it's something about that Blues logo, something about being in St. Louis is doing things for people, because that team just, when they lose, they still can't lose because they pick up another good 2-3 players. So Vegas will be good. I think there's going to be a depth issue as far as their forwards are concerned. The support scoring is going to be up in the air. It will be a question mark between Cody Glass, Alex Tuck on that 3rd line, and Tuck is still going back and forth with some injury issues. So if they could get a big year out of Cody Glass and Alex Tuck, and if they make a good 3rd line, then Vegas is a real scary team. But if they just continue to be the Pacioretty Stone line, and then Riley Smith and William Karlsson doing what they can do on the 2nd line, they can only make it so far. I think a team like St. Louis and a team like Colorado is just a little too dangerous if you don't have that 3rd line providing a real scoring punch for you.
Well, Jeff, if any of these teams need a mascot, we have them right over here. This would be the perfect mascot for any one of those teams. I mean, look at them. I mean, you put on a woman's dress or something. You can skate out on the ice. I mean, a woman with a big long beard and looks like a werewolf.
So I'm basically the female version of Gritty, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, yes, Gritty female.
You know what? That could work in Vegas, because I've seen a lot of guys that look like him wearing dresses out on the strip. So they might be in the market for it. They've already got a Gila monster, which makes no sense because I guess it's a desert animal. And they got a crazy British guy that runs around in armor, which is pretty cool. And he's actually a pretty cool guy I've met a number of times. But I mean, I'm sure they'd be willing to add you to the mix. They've got, the old school showgirls done up with the whole headdress and everything. They've got Elvis impersonators running around that building. So once they open the doors back up, I'd tell you to fire off an application, send them an email, and see if you can get in there. You might have to shave your legs and keep the beard, one or the other, but whatever gets you in the door, gets you in the door.
Well, we know he's not going to make the team. As talented as that team is, he's definitely not making the team. That's for sure.
He could be the 6th defenseman. Which actually brings up a funny, an interesting thing. This morning they told us that for opening night tomorrow, they're running 13 forwards, 5 defensemen. So that's going to be something to watch, because and Pete DeBoer specifically mentioned the salary cap crunch, which bringing in a Pietrangelo gave them. I mean, I don't know how the money wouldn't have worked out with one of the young defensemen, Nick Hague, who played the first half of the season in Zach Whitecloud's spot. Once Whitecloud was healthy, he got his legs under him. He came and took over the spot, but maybe they just didn't want to go two young defensemen on that 3rd pair. but it looks like White Cloud's going to rotate in as that fifth guy with an emphasis on trying to get Pietrangelo, trying to get Shea Theodore as much ice time as possible because, I mean, honestly, if you watch a lot of Vegas hockey, it is a real question on who the best defenseman is, Alex Pietrangelo or Shea Theodore.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I've never seen a team do 13-5 like that. We've seen two teams do 11-7 before. Tampa does it the most with 7 defensemen. But that's an interesting.
I've watched the Flyers do it a million times and I cringe at it. I'd rather go 5 than 7.
So a question as somebody who worked for an expansion team with Vegas, they've been in the league now for 4 years. We have another one coming in the Seattle Kraken, Errol's favorite name.
Oh my God.
So
how could you name a team the Krakens? I would have called them the Seattle Grunge. I mean, that's where grunge rock is from. Why would you name them?
That was one of the names that was up. Wasn't that one of the names that they were considering?
I don't think so.
I think Seattle Nirvana was one of them.
Nirvana, but it wasn't the grunge.
Yeah. So I just want to ask, as somebody who's worked as in an expansion team, one, how do you think it'll work in Seattle over there? And two, do you think the expansion draft strategy in terms of protecting and holding players like we saw with Vegas will change because of how well Vegas has done?
You know, I really feel bad for the Seattle franchise because Vegas did so good and George McPhee fleeced those other GMs so badly. I think Seattle is just screwed. I don't think anybody's going to deal with Seattle unless it's a case where it's a really, really highly coveted piece that they can't protect, that they have to protect. But I really don't think Seattle's going to have much help from the other GMs because Vegas took it to the Cup final. You know how many teams have been begging to get to the Cup final? I mean, Seattle's going to have a tough go trying to get teams to help them because Vegas did a great job of it. We haven't really seen those draft picks pan out. I mean, they've panned out as far as making trades and making things happen. Cody Glass is the closest thing we're getting to see to one of their draft picks, but that was originally their draft pick. So we really haven't seen a payoff as far as the picks that they got, but we have seen where they ended up. And obviously teams will be a little hesitant to set up Seattle for as much success, especially the teams in their division.
Well, Marc-Andre Fleury might be going to another expansion team, the Krakens.
That would be interesting. I think he's got a no move with Vegas. I'm not sure the exact details of it, if he would be susceptible to something like that, but we'd have to look and see what happens there. But yeah, who knows? Maybe he'd waive it to go there like he did for Vegas, and he gets built up as the celebrity he was built up to be here because, like I said, if he lets in a goal, people pretend it didn't happen. So he might want that energy again. He might want to go to Seattle and put another 3-4 years on his career, get another contract extension. Who knows what could happen?
Was there ever a player that did that like in the 90s? Like maybe they were with Anaheim and then with Columbus or something like that? I don't remember that case.
Yeah, we'd have to look that up. I don't remember those expansions too well. Or even the Wild and all that.
The Florida Panthers, John Van Beesbroek, he was traded to Vancouver 93 at the end of 93. He went to Vancouver. It just so happens he was sent to the expansion draft. He went to Florida. He could have played the Rangers in the Stanley Cup Finals. Who knows? Vancouver could have won the Stanley Cup in 94 if Van Beesbroek was playing. And then he goes, and 3 years later, goes to the Stanley Cup Finals and gets swept by the Colorado Avalanche. So there you go.
That's an exciting team to watch this season is Vancouver. I'm interested to see how they do in the North Division, the Canada Division, if you will. But yeah, Vancouver's an interesting team too. It'll be a fun year of hockey, that's for sure.
Jeff, why don't you tell the fans how they can find you on social media?
I actually just changed my Twitter handle. I hope I'm getting it right. You can find me at jpaul_HB, I believe it is. You can also find me on Facebook at JeffPaulVGK. And always check out HockeyBuzz.com. I'm not the only guy on there. We've got writers for every team. I'd say about 85% of them are pretty good. I don't know what percentage I'm putting myself in. I think I'm 1 foot on each side, but you can at least read the stuff. You can argue with me in the comment sections, and you know how comment sections can get. So I'm always looking for people to get on there, read my stuff, tell me how stupid I am, and then we can have fun watching hockey. But I'm live tweeting every game. So anything that happens during the games, we can talk about together, just have a good time, be interactive with it because, you know, I only get so much entertainment out of typing to my laptop. I really like telling people that I'm right all the time and they're wrong all the time. And arguing with them. So that's what I get out of Twitter. So come over there, argue with me, tell me I'm dumb. You know, I don't live with my mom anymore, so I don't get that very often. So if you could just get in there, tell me my writing's bad, tell me that I'm wrong about stuff, just go for it.
Well, Jeff, thank you for joining us. We'd love to get you on in the middle of the season. We'll talk a little bit of Vegas hockey, your thoughts of where Vegas is in the middle of the season. So we definitely like to get you on again.
Yeah, and I'll have to listen in and see what you think about the Knicks again. I was pretty entertained listening to the first part of that.
Well, as you guys know, we were just talking to HockeyBuzz Vegas Golden Knights writer Jeff Paul. Nice guy. Great personality. Very, very
he's funny. He was funny.
Very funny. Great personality. I heard his dog in the background, too. I heard his dog barking. So, and he's no longer with his parents. So there you go. He's hanging out and enjoying himself. Great, great interview.
The dogs of our interviews. We'll have him and Terrence Ferguson.
Before we go to break, and we're going to have at 7:15, we'll be talking to Islanders blog and Empire Sports Media. Why do you write all this? Just tell me, Islanders blog writer and Empire Sports Media writer Rob Taub. Okay, that would have made it easier instead of putting all this. This is what you do when it comes to your writing and reading off your questions. You do the same thing. I'm writing it over to me to give me some information. But before we go to break, I want to get into some football. And the last couple of days, it's been getting very, very hot with Robert Taub. Okay, Saul. I'm sorry. And Robert Saul is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. Comes from the 49ers. The guy is very well-spoken, very powerful voice, great personality. And a lot of people think a born leader as a head coach. And last year, I was very surprised he didn't get a job. And going into the season, there was no way he wasn't going to get a job at the end of the season, especially what he has done with that defense. This is a defense that lost Nick Bosa, lost a ton of defensive players. They lost Bruckner in the offseason into trade. Yep. And then they bring in defensive players that you never even heard of in the first round and turn into great players. I mean, if you don't know who Robert Saleh is, you can listen to Richard Sherman and what Richard Sherman has said about him. Richard Sherman said there is not one defensive mind in the NFL right now that could have taken over this team with all the losses they have lost defensively. They lost 8 starters this year to defense and actually be ranked in the top 5 in almost every single defensive position. I mean,
I think they were 7th in run defense. I think they were above average still in pass defense. I want to say 15th or something like that. That's very impressive considering the circumstances. Their secondary was a little healthier than they were last year, but that was really it. Even they had linebacker injuries too. Fred Warner played out of his mind this season considering all those injuries too.
It's just so interesting because everybody was talking about the New York Jets, who's going to be the next New York Jet head coach. And now I know the New York Jets are dining right now with Titans Arthur Smith tonight. I am not surprised, and Jets complete their second interview with Robert Saleh. More candidates will get their second interview. I believe that Sal will be getting the job. I think the Jets will wait until the end of the week, and they will announce that Robert Saleh is the next New York head coach. But letting Sal leave out of Floral Park, Floral Park. Having him leave Floral Park is not a good thing because there are a lot of other teams that are interested in Sal, and he's definitely going to be a guy that the Jets are definitely gunning for. He was the first guy to get the second interview, so that's telling you that the Jets are probably more interested in him than all the other candidates.
Yeah, I don't know if they even interviewed any other defensive coaches from what I heard, except for maybe Eberflus in the beginning of the process. But after they interviewed Saleh, I haven't heard any other defensive guy. So that leads me to believe that if defensive guy is what they want, he's going to be that guy. And I think they're just waiting on the offensive candidates, like you were saying with Smith, with Brian Daboll, who I know they interviewed just recently too. I think after the Bills played on Saturday. So I think that's the process they're looking at. Do they want an offensive guy or a defensive guy? Do they have a preference? I'm sure they're talking about with Sam Darnold if he wants to still be there, kind of thing. Obviously, they still have leeway to draft Fields too, if that's what they want to go, or Lawrence.
They're not asking Sam Darnold if he wants to be there. They're going to ask the coach, whoever they decide that they choose to be the coach of the New York Jets, if they can fix him, if they want him. Because taking Sam Darnold, you're taking a lot of people's baggage. You're taking Todd Bowles' baggage and Adam Gase's baggage. As much as I like Sam Darnold, and I think Sam Darnold could be a future franchise quarterback, I don't know if the Jets moving forward can take a chance with a quarterback that has been messed up by two coaches that don't know how to coach as a head coach. So I don't know if you can take a chance in doing that. Now, I'm very surprised they let Robert Saleh leave without giving him a contract, which means they're still open to interviewing the other guys. I know they haven't interviewed Doug Peterson yet. And Doug Peterson is a guy right now in Vegas. They have Doug Peterson at plus 300, and they have Robert Saleh at plus 300, and everybody else under either negative or positive. So now Doug Peterson is an interesting move for the New York Jets, a guy that's won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, a guy that understands what it takes to win under Andy Reid's tree. But I'm not going to take on a guy that what he did in the 16th week or 17th week of the season, where he had a chance to eliminate and knock out the Washington football team. He wanted to screw the New York Giants. I believe that. It had nothing to do with the draft stock and the draft pick. I don't think it had anything to do with what did they move up? 2 positions?
3 spots.
I don't think it would have made a difference. He wanted to screw the Giants. That's what he wanted to do. It's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Rivalry, yeah.
The Philadelphia Eagles, because I almost said the Flyers, because the Flyers are a rivalry with the Rangers.
I just thought of all the New York Philly rivalry.
Nobody wants to see, especially from Philadelphia, a New York team make it to the playoffs because of a Philadelphia team. So I think it had a lot to do with the GM. It has a lot to do with the ownership. And he got fired because of it, because he lost the players. He lost Carson Wentz, who said he wants out. And now they have a chance to save Carson Wentz, because I believe they still think Carson Wentz is the future quarterback of this organization.
Well, not only that, they really don't have a choice salary-wise with him, because there's going to be a lot of dead cap if they cut him. I think it's $54 million next year, and then $29 million if they cut him the year after. So they really have no choice, at least as a backup, to really just stick it out with Wentz.
I do believe that Robert Saleh is the guy that the Jets are going to hire. I think you're going to probably hear that in the next couple of days. You're going to hear something come out from the New York Jets that Robert Saleh is the next new head coach of the New York Jets. But especially when you're getting an interview for a second time as quick as you did. You did a Zoom call, and then you asked him to come in. He was with the Jets for about 7 hours today in Floral Park. So that's a significant amount of time. I was very surprised that the Jets didn't sign him, but I think the Jets are still going to give Arthur Smith the opportunity to interview and Dable to interview. These are guys that are still in the playoffs. They're still working with their respectable teams. They just want to make sure that these two guys are not the guys that they thought that would fit with the organization moving forward. So I think Robert Saleh is going to get the job. It seems like it is. But I'm very surprised that Joe Douglas let him leave Floral Park without signing.
Yeah, it's also the availability factor, too, because Saleh also not being on a playoff team this year, he actually has a chance to interview more in comparison to Dable. Now Smith is out, too, so he'll probably be in that same boat, not being on a playoff team. Obviously, Eric Bieniemy with the Chiefs still being in. So expect more interviews, I would think, later on, at least over the weekend after those playoff games on Saturday and Sunday. And I don't think you're going to see a coaching job for a while. Usually the coaches get hired right around this middle time because of that whole process. And I think they're, again, still evaluating, do they want an offensive guy? Do they want a defensive guy? And I think if it is a defensive guy, Saleh is a lock. I think that's a big deal, because I don't think they didn't have a second one with Eberflus at all, and now he's out too. So I think that's a big deal. And if they want an offensive guy, I think most of those guys are still playing, or they're college coaches where they haven't gotten to them yet.
No, and I don't think they're going to get to them. I don't believe Campbell wants to interview for the position. He didn't want to interview for the position last time. And I think Matt Campbell likes where he is in Iowa State. I can't see him wanting to leave. And Northwestern, I'm very surprised, because now that Nagy is going back to Chicago for at least another year, I thought it made sense to Fitzgerald to take over the Chicago Bears job, being that he's from Chicago and he's coaching Northwestern. Now that the position is not open, I think he's going to go back with Northwestern. I don't see him taking another job and leaving Chicago. So again, you're looking at the Jets. I do believe that Arthur Smith is a guy that they really, really like, especially what he did with Ryan Tannehill. And it would make sense that if you brought Arthur Smith in, he can fix Sam Darnold. And a lot of people would believe that. But Robert Saleh is a guy that is very he's very emotional. He's the type of guy that would fit with the New York press. The New York press would love him. Absolutely adore this guy because of his passion for the game and what he does on and off the field. I mean, how he pushes these kids to be men. I mean, that's what you want as a head coach. He's another Rex Ryan, but more relaxed Rex Ryan. He's not a guy that's going to go out there and wear a wig and talk to the press and make fun of his brother or say something stupid. He's a guy that will say what he feels in his heart. He's like another Joe Judge, another type of Joe Judge, but a more personal, funny, and more outgoing Joe Judge. Joe Judge is more light and right to the point. Saleh will give you a little bit more personality to, arguing, football and talking to the press. So I think he would be a perfect fit for the New York Jets. I'm very surprised they let him leave. I really am. I wouldn't have let the guy leave. I would have signed him to a contract. Now there are teams like the Lions. There are other teams like the Texans. These teams are going to interview him.
I think Saleh was the first one Detroit interviewed, if I remember correctly. So I'm sure they're definitely high on him too.
I mean, I think he wants the Jet job. I think everybody wants the Jet job. I think the Jet job is the more not respectable job, enticing job right now. When you talk about all the teams that are available. I mean, what are the teams that are available? You have the Texans, you have the Lions,
Chargers, Falcons, Jacksonville, and the Texans, which is, I think, the worst situation of them all. Now the Eagles, obviously, with Peterson being fired. I think those are the only 6 right now.
And right now, Deshaun Watson, you can't say that, well, they have a franchise quarterback because you don't know if he wants to be there. And the only franchise quarterback out of all those teams is maybe Herbert. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, the Chargers, I think, have the most talented team, like on paper, of all those teams.
But they don't have the money in the draft stock like the Jets do.
Yeah, that's the biggest question is what they want to take on and what kind of coach would they want to take on in order to do that. Because the Chargers, as good as they've been with developing talent, they have not done a great job hiring coaches the last couple of years, really. So that'll be interesting to see. Herbert's definitely a big selling point, though, and the other talent that they have. And the other question is how much of that coaching staff will go too. We already saw Gus Bradley get fired, and he got hired by the Raiders for whatever reason.
I think Eric Bieniemy would be a perfect fit for the Chargers.
Yeah,
I think he would be a perfect fit for the Chargers. You're talking about Justin Herbert, who I think is going to be a franchise quarterback. He's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. 3 years from now, I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to take any shots, and you guys can take this to the bank. Justin Herbert will be just as good as Patrick Mahomes, maybe even better. Okay, that's how good I think Justin Herbert is going to be. That's how talented he's going to be. He's elusive inside and out of the pocket. He's got a great arm, familiarity of understanding the game, the over the shoulder passes, and really what he sees in the pocket and outside of the pocket. I think he's a fantastic, fantastic talent, and I think he would fit with Eric Bieniemy. Also, Doug Peterson would be a good fit over there with a quarterback of that magnitude. But he ruined Carson Wentz, a lot of people believe.
Yeah, I don't know if the Chargers are going to go for a retread at this point because they've done that a lot in the past. And I don't know if they're going to really go after that kind of thing. I think the Chargers want something fresh.
Could you imagine Eric Bieniemy loses out on another job this year? Could you imagine that? You're talking about a guy that everybody talks is the most prolific offensive mind that's going to be available this offseason. And he should have had a job last year. He should have had a job the year before. And he's been interviewing maybe he's just not a good interviewer.
But still, I mean, to what extent does that matter when you're that desperate of a team? Especially look at Detroit and Houston. We say it all the time. They're both cash strapped. They're both terrible rosters right now. I mean, at what point do you just have to gamble on something big like that? I mean, this is something that you really have to look at, even if he is a quote unquote maybe bad interviewer, bad public guy. I mean, Houston's a big city, but Detroit's not really a small thing. And if it's the Chargers, they're still the second team in LA to the Rams. So if that's what's holding you back, it shouldn't be.
I think it makes sense why the Jets interviewed Salah as quick as they did and as many times as they have, because his personality fits New York. His culture drive will fit New York, especially with the New York Jets. And the Jets need a guy that's going to push them, push the players to that limit. This has been a problem for the New York Jets the last couple of years, really the last 15, 20 years. They don't have anybody that's going to push them to that next limit. The last person to really push the Jets to that limit was Bill Parcells. And that was in 1998, 1997. So they don't have a guy that's going to take over this team and you know it and that you can trust. I'm not saying Rex Ryan didn't do a good job. I'm not saying that he didn't. Rex Ryan took over Eric Mangini's team. That's what he did. He took over Eric Mangini's talent, and he took that to the next level. But he couldn't get over the hump because they drafted wrong and they picked the wrong quarterback in the draft. So the Jets have an opportunity now to do a lot in the draft with all the draft stock that they have and the position that they set themselves. Now they got to pick the right coach. And I think Robert Saleh is the right coach for this team right now. Even though I like Eric Bieniemy, even though I like even Doug Peterson, I like Doug Peterson. Yeah. I think Doug Peterson will be a good coach here in New York, especially in the mind that he is, and he's an Andy Reid disciple. And this is a guy that won a Super Bowl 2 years ago. He understands how to win. Say whatever you want. He won with a backup quarterback, and that has a lot to do with his play calling. So maybe Doug Peterson will be a guy that the Jets are gunning for. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be a very, very interesting weekend. I do believe we're going to hear by Monday, the latest, who the new New York Jets head coach is going to be. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking to IslesBlog and Empire Sports media writer Rob Taub, right? Am I right? Mm-hmm. You see, I got the name right. Rob Taub here on Below the Mic.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Be fearless at MMA Long Island and Setuha Karate. Located at 28 Colt Court in Ronkonkoma, MMA Long Island is the martial arts school for you if you want to learn combat-proven techniques, build confidence, discipline, and self-esteem while learning real martial arts to fight back against bullies, predators, and peer pressure. MMA Long Island offers group and private lessons for all ages and levels in traditional Goju-Ryu Karate, MMA, and self-defense. MMA Long Island is one of Long Island's most affordable martial arts schools. There are no promotion, belt, or membership fees, and family discounts are available. All classes are taught by 7th degree black belt Sensei John Benedict with over 30 years teaching experience. So whether you want to get in the ring or protect yourself and your family, MMA Long Island can help you reach your goals. Visit MMALongIsland.com. That's MMALongIsland.com, or call or text 516-381-9660. That's 516-381-9660.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Whoa! Oh! The start of the NHL season, ladies and gentlemen, we're all excited. The Brooklyn Nets make a terrible trade. The New York Jets let Robert Saleh leave Floral Park. I mean, New York sports. Why not? As you guys know, this is Below the Mic. We are live every single Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time. You can call us at 631-965-4990. You can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Download our app on iOS, WWSRN, and Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Well. Finally, we've got an Islander writer, an Islander disciple. No more Ranger guys, no more Vegas night guys or Canadian guys. We've got an Islander guy on with us. I'm very excited because now we can talk a little bit of Islanders hockey. We are now talking to IslesBlog and Empire Sports media writer Rob Taub. What's going on, Rob?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm very excited to have you on, especially that you're an Islander guy. For some reason, the last couple of weeks, we've been getting on a lot of Ranger writers. And Ranger writers like to shut down the New York Islanders on where the Islanders are going to go this year, that the Islanders were very lucky that they came back from COVID and went as far as they did to the Eastern Conference Championship, and they got their asses beaten by the Lightning. And there was a reason why they got their asses beaten by the Lightning, because they weren't that good. So I'm excited to get you on. Rob, how are you and your family doing with this pandemic?
Everyone's doing good. My mom and grandma actually did have COVID 2 months ago, but they fought through that. I've been tested, I tested negative 3 times, but yeah, everyone's hanging in there. It's just a crazy, crazy time.
So, I mean, the story really going into the season was Matthew Barzal. He gets a 3-year deal worth about $7 million a year. The one thing that really bothers me about this signing, this contract was really, could you not correct me, please? But the 3-year contract is the fact that they didn't sign him to a 5 or 6 or 7-year deal. That's something what you want to do. You want to make sure you hold on to your superstar player. And now you're thinking about in the next 3 years, if the Islanders do not win, or they're not one of those teams that you're going to be talking about where they can lose into free agency. What were your thoughts when the Islanders, I would say about 4 days ago, it came out that they signed Matthew Barzal to a 3-year, $7 million a year contract?
I was happy that they got him locked up. I know that they were looking for a long-term deal. It was, that's what they wanted. And because of the whole cap situation, they couldn't make it happen. He was ready to sign a 5, 6, maybe even 7 or 8 year deal from what I heard. But no, I was very, very ecstatic to see him sign. I thought the number that they got him at was very good. And I thought the years, look, 3 years from now, he'll be a restricted free agent again. And then, if a team wants to offer sheet him, they're going to have to give the Islanders or him $8.5 million and compensation. So I think it comes out as a great deal for both sides. But yeah, I was very happy to see him sign. I thought people were taking the whole contract dispute a little bit too far. With Lou Lamoriello running the team the way he has the past few years, it's like nothing really leaks out. And a lot of people, when it comes to Islander fans, like we're a little skittish when it comes to like contract negotiations or whatever, because we saw what happened with the John Tavares saga, and we just don't want to see that. We don't want to see that happen again. But I was very, very happy to see him sign, and now it's on him to, live up to that contract and become a star. And I think he's on his way there.
Barzal had 19 goals last season, which I think was a little down from what a lot of Islanders fans expected. One, do you think that maybe factored into why you might have not gotten $8 or $9 million, a little more than that at the start of last season, like a lot of people were thinking? And also, what do you think he has to improve on to improve that goal total?
I don't think that really played a part in it. I think that when it comes to him and scoring goal, he's just the guy who he wants to be the playmaker. He doesn't want to be the shooter. And the Islanders have, I've written about it over and over again at length that they've lacked scorers for the past few years. That's really the only thing that's keeping them back from being an elite team. Not saying they aren't almost there now, but you saw in the playoffs where they were lacking and they couldn't hang with Tampa and all their big guns. But when it comes to Barzal, I think it's more he just doesn't shoot enough. I've been saying it ever since he came to the league. He's got a great shot too. I've watched every single game he's played, and I could see it when he has the puck on his stick. He's a magician, but he doesn't like to always shoot. He always wants to be the facilitator, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you mentioned the 19 goals. He's the kind of guy who I would have thought would have been a 30-goal scorer by now. He has that type of ability, has that type of talent. You can make the argument that he hasn't had the players around him that can make him, elevate him the way people think he should be. But he's the star. He's supposed to elevate the other guys. Or he's supposed to elevate his teammates, and he has in a sense. He's done it. But I think this year, we're going to see a different. I think we're going to see a more focused Matthew Barzal. I think you're going to see a guy with maybe a more shooter's mentality, because the Islanders' offense, it's still not where it needs to be, but they do have pieces. But Barzal, he's the guy that runs through, and he's got to be the one that takes charge this year.
We are talking to IslersBlog and Empire Sports media writer Rob Taub. Now, Rob, the Islanders have a great young team. They have a lot of good young players coming up this year. Oliver Wahlstrom, Noah Dobson. We've been hearing about Noah Dobson, the growth of who he was in the playoffs last year, taking over the way he did, and really strategically what Barry Trotz likes to do. Is there a player this season that you're looking forward to watching that stands out to you going into the season?
It's got to be Anthony Beauvillier. He's got star written all over him also. We saw in the playoffs, he was a monster, and he he had a motor going, and I know he slowed down a little bit toward the end, but this is the kind of guy where I mentioned about the offense before. He's got to be the one that steps up. He really, really has to. He's going into a contract there also, and he's going to be looking to make some coin next off season. But he's one of those guys that for the past few years, it's always been about consistency, and he hasn't been able to keep up that consistency to the point where you can depend, where the team can depend on him to be an offensive force. That's got to change this year. He's the guy. Everyone is expecting big things out of him. You can even say he might be the X factor for this team this year. If you're not going to go with Barzell or Ryan Pulak or whoever, Beauvillier, he's going to be the guy everyone's looking for because he's the top six. He's in the top six, and he's solidified. He's a top six forward. But he's got to be consistent. Consistency is the key for him this year, and yeah, he's my guy to look for.
So what about the goalies? What do you think the split will be like now with Sorokin coming there? Very good goalie prospect, should be fantastic. And also Semyon Varlamov, who was up and down at times last year, but was very good in the playoffs.
Corey Schneider too.
And Corey Schneider in the mix as well.
Corey Schneider he'll be on the taxi squad most likely, but I don't see him getting that many games unless Varlamov or Sorokin either get hurt or just play very badly.
Yeah. So what do you think the splits will be like? And what percentage, maybe how much do you think Sorokin will have more Varlamov?
I'm not sure. Based on what Barry Trotz said, he's going to try and ease Sorokin into the NHL basically because he hasn't played a game yet. And I'm hoping, I think we'll see him sometime within the next week. I wrote that earlier today. But when it comes to the splits, if the way the Islanders have been the past few years too, when it comes to their goalies and the way Trotz has employed them is he likes to split them. Whoever's got the hot hand, he goes with. So I can see Varlamov is the starter. That's already confirmed. But I think if he struggles, I think Sorokin could definitely garner more games than him. But the split, if they split the season halfway, then you know that the Islanders are either in a good place or a bad place. But I don't know. I'm hoping that we can see a little bit more Sorokin because he is the future in net, and that's nothing against Semyon Varlamov because he was phenomenal in the playoffs. And now this is his second year with the team, and I think he's probably a little bit more comfortable. He probably knows Trott's system and the way that his defense is going to play in front of him. But yeah, I'd like to see Sorokin maybe get a few more starts because he is the future, and he's the guy everyone's looking to be the goaltender for the next 10 to 15 years, hopefully. But I think if they get I could see an even split, but it depends on who has the hot hand.
Now, Pajot was traded to the New York Islanders at the trade deadline. A lot of Islander fans were very surprised. They gave up a first and a second-round draft pick, and they didn't really have a first or second-round draft pick this year. And a lot of Islander fans didn't realize how talented of a player he was until he was in the playoffs, and he was one of the leading scorers, not only for the Islanders in the NHL playoffs. Are you surprised that Pajot is as good as he is? And do you think now that he's playing a full season with the New York Islanders, do you think he's going to break out a 40-goal scorer this year?
I think 40 goals is asking a lot because it's only a 56-game schedule. I mean, if he could hit 20, that'd be a hell of a season. But no, we've been hearing about how good he was going back to when he was with Ottawa, and I remember watching him in the playoffs against the Rangers a few years back, and he was just an all-out beast. And he basically helped win Ottawa that series in the few games that they were were up and down affairs. But I think Islander fans knew, just how good this guy was going to be. We saw it from the minute he joined the team when he fought Jacob Trouba after he knocked out Michael Del Cole in the first game against the Rangers last year. It was Pajot's first game as an Islander. You knew that they had something special, and then it took him a little time to adjust. But then you saw in the playoffs. I mean, this guy, he's a gamer, and I think the Islanders are going to get the most of him this year. And because he's centering the third line, and I tweeted it last week. You put the Islanders center depth against anyone in the league, and they could be one of the top in the league. They've got 4 very quality, really good centers, and Pajot just adds to that. But I think he's going to have a big year. I think because he's centering the third line, and that line was like a dark hole last year for production. I think that's where he's going to thrive, and basically he's going to have that whole little area all to himself.
So what about the young players that are right on the borderline that we've seen? Kiefer Bellows made the roster, as did Wallstrom. It was announced today. But also guys like
two great young players, by the way.
I remember. I'm a Ranger fan. I wanted them to draft Wallstrom really badly in that draft. So
I remember.
Yeah.
So I remember that because I remember Ranger fans were crying when they didn't pay, and they could also add Casey Middlestat.
Right.
Too. I remember that also. So those were two guys I remember Ranger fan. You guys are crying big time, but look where you are now.
Yeah. So some of those players, all in addition to guys like Del Cole, like you mentioned earlier, Josh Hosang, who's been up and down due to his issues. What do you think about those young players, like those players that are on the borderline with the ones that have made the roster now, and also again throughout the season too?
I think they need to make an impact, and based on what Trot said this morning, he sees that Wallstrom and Bellows will both get time. Mostly, you'll probably see them on the third line unless they just explode out of nowhere. Then who knows what happens? I mean, Bellows and Wallstrom are both projected to be top 6 forwards, but the way that they've developed so far, I see more Wallstrom having a slighter edge toward that. But no, I'm very excited to see what they have in store. I mean, these are the guys we've been hearing about for a while now, especially Bellows. I mean, we got to see him for a short stint last year, and he made an impact. Same thing with Wallstrom, except Wallstrom didn't score, and that's his bread and butter. He's got one of the best releases of probably any prospect in the league. But I think they're going to bring something different to this lineup. I think they're going to bring a skill set to this lineup that the Islanders maybe lack a little bit. They don't have a lot of skill. They're more of the heavy based team, and there's only so many guys you can name off the top of your head that have the skill that maybe the league has turned to in terms of that. But no, I think they're going to be good. They're going to be good players this year, and I think they're going to make an impact. And yeah.
We are talking to Islanders blog and Empire Sports media writer Rob Taub. Now, Rob, the Islanders have one of the most underrated first-line defensive pairings in the NHL, Ryan Pulock and Pelech. Were you surprised that Pelech was as important as he was to the Islanders when he came back after his Achilles injury and then come back and the Islanders just completely miraculously became that top talented defensive team that we saw in the beginning of the season? Were you surprised when Pelech came back that he was the big reason why that defense was as good as they were in the playoffs?
I'm not surprised. Going back to the previous playoffs against Pittsburgh, and even just shortly before that, after the All-Star game, right before the All-Star game 2 seasons ago, there was a game where Adam Pelech was scratched against the New York Rangers. And after that, it was in early January. The Islanders lost that game. After that, he wasn't scratched the rest of the season. And he just evolved. He really, really evolved. So when you ask me if I knew how important he was going to be going last year, yeah. I mean, and he's even more important going into this year. Now that Devon Taves is gone, I mean, a lot of guys and Johnny Boychuk is basically he's basically retired. A lot of guys are gonna have to pick up the slack. But Pelech, yeah, he's underrated, but he can be a household name. Same thing with Ryan Pulock. I saw that he was on the Athletics top 100 players list, which was very surprising to me. But that's a duo that can really, really make some noise this year. And the Islanders are going to really, really need them because, who knows what we're going to get? Who knows what you're going to get from Noah Dobson full season? You got other guys who might be shuffling in and out of that into that defensive core, those corps. But no, they're extremely important to the success. And I wasn't surprised with how good he was when he came back in the bubble. It's just, it was night and day compared to what the Islanders were dealing with when he was gone. And they're a different team without him, but they're a worse team without him.
I think Noah Dobson's going to be a star, by the way. He is a fantastic player, unbelievable skater, long, big, strong. He's young. He's a little wet behind the ears, but when this kid figures things out, this guy is going to be one of the best defensive players in the NHL.
I would temper my expectations because it's going to be his first season, but we saw last year he's got a calmness about him, and he's got a cool cool hand Luke a little bit type of mentality, and he's not afraid to get in on the offense, and he looked sharp, he looked good defensively when he was given his time, and then that last game in the playoffs against Tampa Bay, he looked like he belonged. So I think the Islanders are expecting big things out of him, and I totally agree with you. I think he's going to be a stud. right now it's just seeing how he progresses, especially playing with Andy Green, who basically is like he's going to be his mentor this year. And that pairing I heard that pairing going back to before they entered the bubble was supposedly one of the best they had going in. And now it seems like they're going to be paired again this year. So it should be fun to see what those two have in store. But yeah, Dobson, he's the one to watch. He's one of the bigger ones to watch this year, and he might turn. Yeah, he'll be a stud.
So in free agency, a lot of NHL people and a lot of Islanders fans were thinking they might go after a big name in terms of the offensive
Mike
side.
Hoffman being one of them.
Mike Hoffman.
He tried.
They're swirling trades for Patrick Laine, stuff like that. Are you surprised that they didn't do that? Or do you think maybe there's a plan, maybe with the trade deadline in a shortened season, that they might be able to buy low on a player like that, maybe if a team gets bad right away?
I wouldn't say I was surprised. I kind of knew. I think a lot of us knew what was coming because of the whole cap crunch and the whole flat cap really put them really hamstrung them going into free agency. You mentioned Mike Hoffman. Look, they kept their they kept their tabs. They tried as hard as they could, but the whole Matthew Barzal situation really didn't do them any favors. But I don't think there's a plan going toward the trade deadline. I think it's more the expansion draft for Seattle when things are really going to get interesting, because there's a few guys on this team who you would expect not to be exposed and expect to be, the foundational pieces to be here for the next, 4 or 5 years. But even they're not guaranteed a spot. But no, I think they tried in free agency. I think maybe you can call it conservative, but I really think they had no choice. I mean, you saw what happened with Devon Taves and the money that he got from Colorado. The Islanders couldn't do that, and they did with the best they could to get something valuable for him, and they did. Those two draft picks can really come back to help them, in the near future. But they tried, couldn't really do anything, and you just got to live with the hand that you're dealt, and that's what Lou and the organization's doing.
As you guys know, we are talking to Islanders blog and Empire Sports media writer Rob Taub. Rob, Mass Mutual East. Okay, I don't know where they get these names. Okay, these are terrible names.
It's all about money. It doesn't matter. Just call it the East Division.
Whatever it is. Okay, the Islanders and the Rangers are smacking a very difficult division because only 3 teams can make it out of division. There could be a wild card team that could come out of the division. Not likely, especially how talented the Eastern Conference is. You're looking at Boston, Buffalo, New Jersey, the Islanders, the Rangers, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Washington. We expect Washington to make it. We expect Boston to make it. And Philadelphia, a lot of people are saying, is going to have a fantastic season, especially now they have a star goaltender. What team in this division, and I know you're an Islander guy, do you think that the Islanders could come out being a league division winner, or do you think they're a wild card team?
I think they can win the division. I think they have as good a shot as anybody to win the East. I wrote about, I kind of blogged about it last week, and I said, the Islanders are at a point now where they've been under the same system for the past 2 years, and we've seen how much it works and how successful it is. And going into this year, they do have a bit of an advantage. You've got Washington, who's under a new coach and Peter Laviolette, so they're learning a new system. You got the Penguins, who I think are going to fall off a cliff.
I agree.
I don't know. I don't know why people think they're going to be so good this year. They're older. People say that their defense got better. I am not impressed whatsoever with their defense. And who's really scoring behind Crosby, Malkin, and Gensel? I don't see it. But those teams. But yeah, I think the Islanders do have an advantage. I think the Rangers aren't ready for prime time yet. I think the Islanders still have an advantage over them. Buffalo, New Jersey, they're still what ifs, and that's really gonna be interesting this year to see. They're also under. They brought in Buffalo brought in Taylor Hall. That should make them better. The Devils are under new coaching and Lindy Ruff, but they added a few. They added a few sneaky pieces that might. But I don't see the Islanders could be a wild card team, but they could be the division winner also. Boston is going to be their biggest challenge, and they are absolutely horrendous against the Bruins. It's not even some of the games are not even worth mentioning because of how bad they are. But if they can stick with Boston and they can keep their ground and not have a long, like even a 4 or 5 game losing streak, because that could really, really put them in danger. I think they can win the division. I think after them going to the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't think got them the same recognition as it would other teams. I mean, you mentioned the Flyers, and the Flyers are good. But even there's a few question marks. I know they have Carter Hart, and he's going to be a star. He already is, basically. They've got some good pieces defensively, but offensively, behind their top six, I'm not really, I don't see much, coming from their bottom six. I really don't. Not compared to what Washington has or what the Islanders have in their especially with their fourth line. But no, I think if the Islanders can win the division if they can stick, if Boston falters, but also if they stick with them, for most of the season.
Sorokin is going to play a big part of the Islanders' success. I really do believe it. This kid is going to be a star in the league. The Islanders did not want to trade him. Last year in the middle of the season, we were hearing some stories that Sorokin didn't want to play for the Islanders, and then you heard
it's all garbage.
I know. And then Chicago was going to offer him. I heard 2 first-round draft picks to get Sorokin. There were teams trying to steal Sorokin from Lou Lamoriello, and Lou Lamoriello says he's not for sale. So Sorokin is going to play a big part of the future for the Islanders. He's going to be their superstar. When you talk about superstars that the Islanders lack, you have Matthew Barzal, and now you have this young kid in Sorokin who's about 25 years old, and a lot of people believe the next star goaltender in the NHL. Are you surprised that it took him this long to come to the NHL?
I would say yes and no. Yes, because he was hockey royalty in Russia, and those kind of guys, when they're on that type of echelon in their home country, they don't want them to leave. And sometimes the player themselves, they don't want to leave either. So I'm not. I was kind of surprised it took him this long, but he's finally here and he's not going anywhere. Hopefully for a long, long time. But no. You're told I'm on board with what you're saying. He can be a superstar in this league. He's shown it when he was in Russia. We've seen all the highlights. The hype train is rolling right now with him, and I think he can be a major player.
Difference maker.
Sorry, different. Yeah, thank you. He can be a big time difference maker for this team, because I mean, we talked about it before. The goaltending situation, it'll play itself out as it does, but Sorokin he's the future. And if Varlamov struggles, he won't let go of the reins. Mm-hmm. I don't think. And people have to remember, he's only 25.
Yeah.
He hasn't even reached his prime yet. And yeah, he hasn't played a game in the NHL yet, but just by what we've heard about him, what we've seen, he's ready. He seems ready, and I think he's going to be a difference maker in the ways that the Islanders haven't had someone kind of like Barzal, but
they haven't had one. They really haven't had one since Billy Smith. I'm going to be honest. Rick,
goaltending wise, yes.
Yeah, Chris Osgood. I mean, John Van Beesbrook was there for a year, but he was at the end of his career.
I will fight you on the Rick DiPietro thing, because he was, before all the injuries happened, he was on his way to becoming a really, really good goalie.
I know Rick personally. I played with him. I was a big hockey player. I couldn't stand Rick DiPietro when he went to Boston, and I still can't stand him as an analyst. The guy is a know-it-all, so-called, think that he knows everything about hockey, and now he thinks he knows everything about everything else. I never liked Rick DiPietro. I think he was highly overrated for the New York Islanders. I would have never drafted him at 1, and then they traded away a superstar goaltender that became a Hall of Famer. So we
blame Mike Milbury for that. He was an idiot.
Mike Milbury for a lot of things. Okay, he was so.
That name is sacrilege in my house. So we don't. Anytime I see something like a memory about him on Twitter, I cringe. I really do.
Well, he got fired, thank God. So I don't think you're going to see Mike Milbury the sexist stuff that we've heard him say. So thank God Mike Milbury's gone, and we probably will never hear his voice again on national TV. So that's a plus.
Rob, it's actually pretty funny too that the guy I did my college show with, he's a huge Islander fan too. He made fun of Mike Milbury like nobody ever did between the GM and also him just being a bad analyst as it was, studio analyst at the time. He made fun of him all the time. So it's funny you brought that up. And it's also funny you brought up DiPietro.
I mean,
he defended him to death.
Yeah, but he totally deserves it. I'm not going to go back to revisionist history with how he basically destroyed the franchise, and it's now taken them a long time to get back. And now that they're under the right management and they have people who actually give a damn about the team and know what they're doing, now you're seeing why they are where they are, and they're only at the beginning of possibly being close to a they can win a Stanley Cup within the next few years, and that wasn't the thinking a few years ago, and going back to even when Milbury was around, that just wasn't the mentality. It was just getting by. Now it's not getting by anymore. The expectations have been raised, and that's a great thing. Islander fans have been waiting a long, long time to rid the stench of all that crap that they had to deal with, and now you're seeing they're being repaid in they're being repaid in ways that they probably didn't expect, but in ways that that should have happened a long time ago.
Rob, before we let you go, why don't you tell the fans how they can find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at @rtaub_. I write for IslesBlog. You can find my stuff there. You can find my stuff at Empire Sports Media. I do mostly Isles stuff, but sometimes we'll dip into the Rangers if they permit me. And I also, contribute to the Daily Goalhorn. It's another hockey news site. I do features here and there, and yeah, that's where you go find all my stuff. I don't think you need my Instagram or my Facebook. I don't think you need that.
We actually just interviewed their founder, Anthony Scultore, last week.
He's good dude. I talk with him a lot. I've been on his show. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
very, very nice guy. He's just too much of a Ranger fan.
I spoke with him last week. I know the feeling.
But he's a nice guy. I love arguing with him, and he was great. He was a great interview. He had a lot of fun with us, and we want to get him back on. Maybe we'll get both of you on at the same time. That would be.
I don't know if you want that. There might be some low blows thrown.
Well,
I've never seen a guest attack Arrow more than Anthony did last week. It was funny.
I came back at him, so it doesn't really.
Are you an Islander fan or you're a Ranger fan?
I am an Islander fan. I grew up a Ranger fan, actually, until I was 11 years old.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I grew up a Ranger fan. Yeah, it's funny. When I was 11, the Rangers traded John Van Beesbrook, and then when he went to the Panthers, and then he went to the Islanders, a little bit later in his career, I said, you know what? I'm not going to jump ship or anything like that. I'm going to stay an Islander fan. And over the years, the Ziggy Palffy years, that's when I became an Islander fan. I watched the Islanders just completely choke. Finally, they drafted John Tavares, and I thought they were on their way. And then John Tavares stabbed them in the back. So,
well, I'll be clear. He didn't stab him in the back. Yeah, he stabbed him in the back.
He stabbed him in the back. He absolutely stabbed him in the back.
I don't want to go back to those. I'm already past that. But anytime I could tweak, I love tweaking Toronto fans because they're too easy. Just like everyone likes to tweak us Islander fans.
Yeah.
Toronto, just throw out the play. Just throw out. They haven't gone to the second round in 16 years, in 17 years now. And you basically win it. You win the argument.
Hopefully, you follow the Twitter account since the last time the Leafs won a cup. It's very funny.
There's a few of those. There's a Ranger one. There's an Islander one. There's a Flyer one. And the Toronto one, no, I don't follow. But I follow the Ranger one.
The newest one too. They tweet every day how many days it's been since they last won the cup, and also how many days it was since they lost to the Zamboni driver David Ayres last year.
That moment will live with the Leafs and their fans forever because that was just an incredible, but just so pathetic for a franchise of Toronto, for that to happen to them.
Yeah, I will say this as an Islander fan, I love the fact that John Tavares can't get out of the first round. I love it, and he made a big mistake leaving the New York Islanders. Thank God. He's gone.
I was gonna say when that game 3 that they had against Columbus. When Columbus was up 3-0, I actually tweeted before the game was over. I tweeted something about Tavares and that I forgot what it was, but then I saw them come back. I saw Toronto come back and tie the game and win it in overtime, and people were ready to shoot me because they were just you jinxed it. This and I'm I'm not playing the games, but I get where people were coming. But You know, it's like that, like ribbing that's made like Toronto and it's a fun rivalry. And you know, just as much as I'd love to see the Islanders and Rangers meet in the playoffs, if the Islanders were to meet the Leafs this year in the playoffs, oh man, you're talking about storylines and all up the yin yang, and it would be so great for both fan bases.
Yeah, well, I think Sorokin is going to be a big part of the Islanders moving this season. I think we're going to see.
You think they can win the division? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I don't think they're going to win the division. I do believe the Islanders will make the playoffs. I think you're going to see very, very quickly in the season that Ilya Sorokin is going to be the starting goaltender. He will win the job over from Varlamov. Slowly, in the first 20 games, you're going to see that Ilya Sorokin is more talented and absolutely the up-and-coming goaltender moving forward. And the Islanders will go and swing with him. And I think that he is going to be the difference maker moving forward to New York. I don't know if it'll be this year, but I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see a huge difference.
I know he wasn't. I know he's got really good odds. Not great. I think he can win the Calder Trophy. If the way you were just saying, if he takes over for Varlamov and he doesn't let the reins go, I think he can win the Calder Trophy.
Quite possibly could happen. I think the Islanders are set up very, very well in the defense and the goaltending. What scares me right now is they needed that other offensive guy. I really wanted Mike Hoffman. We were talking about Patrick Laine, but
I think that's out of the question. I think it's been out of the question for a long time now.
Well, we'll see. I think the Islanders will make a move at the trade deadline. Do not trade any more first-round draft picks.
They don't have any. They don't have any right now.
Please don't. I mean, seriously, please don't. Anyways, Rob, thank you for joining us. We'd love to get you on again.
I'd love to be back.
We'd love to talk hockey with you as the season progresses and maybe get you on an FM dial here in Long Island and talk a little Islander hockey.
You have such a thick Long Island accent, man, but I totally appreciate. Oh my God, it's so thick. Even mine is not as thick as that.
Well, you know.
I always said if there was anyone that could play Joe Pesci in a movie about his life, it could be Errol.
Pesci, you got to be from Jersey, man. He grew up in Newark.
No. I'm from here. I'm from New York.
No. Pesci grew up in Newark. That's what
I know that, but I think if you could find any random person, like 10 different people, Errol could be one of them to impersonate Pesci. I think if there was a movie about him,
that'd be crazy. Maybe playing Joe Pesci. I mean, come on. You can't.
You need to get the voice higher.
Yeah, well, I can do it.
He could do it.
I can do it, man. I can do it. I can definitely do it.
He also claims he can sing opera.
I can sing opera.
That's a hell of a thing. That's a hell of a quality.
Rob, thank you for joining us, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Rob Taub, ladies and gentlemen. He writes for the Islanders blog and Empire Sports Media. Nice guy, great personality. Really loved our two special guests, two hockey writers. So hockey season is right here. I'm very excited. As everybody knows, hockey season really brings out personality and really the real fans here on Long Island. I don't care what anybody says. Hockey is so big here in Long Island and in New York, and nobody talks about hockey here on sports media enough. And I think being that we're there's so many great hockey players that come out of Long Island, especially last year. There were four Long Islanders drafted in the first 6 rounds. The year before that, there were 6 in the first 3 rounds. So hockey has been really, really big here in Long Island, and the growth of it has just been spectacular. And the holdup with the Mark Messier rinks over there in Brooklyn has really affected the opportunity of maybe bringing the Olympics, the Winter Olympics here in the near future. But hopefully after COVID is over and those rinks get built and they're all ready to go and the Belmont's here, we're going to have some great hockey to talk about with the Islanders and the Rangers and even the Buffalo Sabres and the New Jersey Devils with some of the young talent that they have with Jack Hughes. So
the Devils should be a lot better at least better than we were last year. It was surprisingly how bad they were last year. Buffalo, it just depends on goaltending. We'll see with them. And the Rangers and Islanders, they're young goalies. We'll see what they can do.
Well, we already know what the Rangers goalie could do. Now let's see what Sorokin can do. I want to see what Ilya could do in a big game when the time is in the crunch and you're actually tied and you're going to overtime and you got to go to a shootout in the playoffs. I mean, go in the regular season and then possibly what you need to do in the playoffs. So that's going to be really, really interesting what Sorokin's going to do this year. That's the guy that I'm watching. That's the guy that I want to see this year. I want to see him. I want to see Kiefer Bellows develop, and I want to see Oliver Wahlstrom, who I think is going to be a stud. I think he's going to be a stud offensive player for this Islander team. A lot of people don't realize this kid is projected to be a 40-goal scorer. A lot of people believe that when he was drafted. I was there at the draft. I was there in Dallas when he was drafted. I remember it. I interviewed him. I interviewed Noah Dobson, and I heard for some of the writers, the Islanders won in that draft. I remember that. And I really love Oliver. I want to see the kid develop. I really do. And I think being that you're going with one of the best coaches in the league, a defensive-minded coach that's really going to strive and push these guys to that limit, I want to see these guys develop. Kiefer looked like he was developing under the Barry Trotz.
You've raved about Bellows.
I love Kiefer Bellows. I love him. I watched Brian Bellows in the 90s and what he did with the Devils in Washington, all the different places. And this kid, Kiefer, is better than his father. And his father was a good player, wasn't an excellent player. Kiefer could be a 30-goal scorer and really be a top 6 type of player. The question is putting the right guys around Matthew Barzal. That's going to be the most important thing moving forward for the New York Islanders. Matthew Barzal is the guy, the playmaker. He's the superstar. He's the guy that's going to open up the ice for all the young players, especially being that he's one of the young players in the league. And he's so special. He really is one of the best skaters in the league. Everybody talks about Connor McDavid. Watch this kid skate. I mean, he's fantastic. I was at the Rangers and Islanders game at the Nassau Coliseum last year. And I was right against it was 2 rows away from the glass with me and the Beeve.
Yes, when you couldn't find your car.
Yes, that's a whole nother story. I will say this. Watching Matthew Barzal live in action, I was a hockey player. I was a top-end hockey player. He's not only that he's a great skater, he glides. It's so special. Who remembers Alexei Kovalov? Does anybody remember Alexei Kovalov? Alexei Kovalov in the 90s was unbelievable puck handler, a great passer. He just never shot the puck enough. And when he left the Rangers and he started shooting the puck, I think when he went to Vancouver and the other teams that he played for, he became a different player. He wasn't the goal scorer that a lot of people thought he was, the talent that he was. Matthew Barzal reminds me, his talent, his skating ability, and his puck handling ability reminds me of Alexei Kovalov. I want to see Barzal shoot more. This kid could be a 30-goal scorer. This guy could be a 40-goal scorer with the talent that he has and the skating ability that he has. He's got to start putting the puck in the net and stop forcing the passes into places that he shouldn't be forcing the passes to. So I'm so excited to watch this kid play this year in Ilya Sorokin. I want to see Kiefer Bellows. I want to see Oliver Wahlstrom, Noah Dobson. The Islanders are one of the youngest talented teams in the NHL. They're going to be fun to watch. And the defensive pairings and what we saw. Everybody keeps talking about what they've lost in the offseason. Talk about what they've gained this offseason with some of the young players that they're adding from their farm system.
Yeah, I think also this kind of season for a team that deep like the Islanders are, they pride themselves on the fourth line. We know about that. And also the young players. It'll be very interesting to see how that'll benefit them because it's like baseball where you have the taxi rosters now. And I think strategy-wise, it's going to be a lot different in terms of bringing guys up and sending them down, the minor league moves not being the same type of thing. And I think that's going to be something that helps the Islanders, even in comparison to teams that are more talented, you would think on paper than them. And that's why I actually think they'll be better than a team like the Flyers who don't have as much depth with that. I think, like you and Rob are saying, I think Washington, Boston, I think will be the 1 and 2. But they could be third. I think they definitely could be third. And again, if things go right for them, if the young players go do well, maybe, who knows, maybe they do steal the division.
I don't know if they're going to steal the division. I'm not going to bet that the Islanders.
I wouldn't either, but if injuries happen, like Rob was saying, if COVID strikes a team as badly as we saw with Dallas already, they already lost 17 players. If the team like Boston or Washington gets hit hard like that, 56 games, not a lot.
What wins championships for hockey? Goaltending and defense. The Islanders have both. The Islanders need goal scoring. If they can get goal scoring out of Oliver Wahlstrom and Kiefer Bellows, if both guys can score close to 20 goals this year, the Islanders are going to be set up very, very well. Maybe you trade one of those guys at the trade deadline and add a guy, a superstar type of guy, if they prove that they are an up-and-coming superstar player of themselves. So I am looking forward to this season for the Islanders, even the Rangers. The Rangers with the talent offensively they have. As a Ranger fan, you're a Ranger fan, I did hear about their offensive. What's his name again? DeAndre Miller.
Yeah.
They're saying DeAndre Miller could be a first-line defensive pairing, which I'm very surprised about. I think that's crazy. That just shows you the depth that the Rangers have in the defensive side of the puck. And that's not a good sign for the Ranger fans. I don't care what Ranger fans are listening to this show right now. If you're going to sit here and tell me starting a rookie as your first pairing and thinking that this guy has not stepped on the ice in an NHL game and you're going to put him on the first line pairing against the best players in hockey, the best players in the world, I think that's a little too crazy.
Yeah, I think that's something that maybe they want to do to balance out the pairs. Maybe they want to split Fox.
Doesn't make sense.
I don't know. I wouldn't do it either. I'm just saying maybe that's the logic that they have. But still, I would much rather have either a veteran guy in that spot or somebody who's played like Lindgren already last year in that spot. If you want to split up Fox and Trouba, maybe to balance out the defense because they don't have the depth, I wouldn't rush it right away. Maybe that's something if he plays well, I could see later in the season, but I wouldn't.
Quinn's going to lose his job after this year. I'm just letting all you Ranger fans know that. I'm not trying to take a shot at the Ranger fans. If the Rangers don't make the playoffs this year, Quinn's going to lose his job.
Really?
Oh, absolutely going to lose his job. Because there are 2 or 3 coaches that we've been talking about, big name coaches that are going to be available next year. And it's all about the Rangers, all about James Dolan. It's all about JD. They talk about big names. You're going to Madison Square Garden. You're going to the world's most famous arena. You want to put a big name behind the bench with some of the big players that they have with Panarin and Zibanejad and the guys that they have and some of the young players like Lafreniere, who a lot of people are trying to call him the next Sidney Crosby. I think it's a joke. I think, let's see what this kid could do on the ice for a whole season. Then we talk about comparing him to Sid the Kid or Connor McDavid. I think it's ridiculous.
Well, the only reason I don't know about Quinn being fired is just because it's a new young players.
It's not a rebuilding season. They're expected to make the playoffs.
No. I'm not saying it's a rebuilding season, but I think he's the one that kind of embraced the rebuild. Their team is still young, and I think that's why I don't think if they've missed the playoffs this year, especially in this tough of a division, it's going to be a selling point for them. Maybe in a full season the next year.
The Rangers got swept by the Carolina Hurricanes 3-0. And everybody was talking about how talented, how good they looked before COVID-19. And then they got smashed up by, yes, a better Carolina team, but they should have competed. They did not compete in that series. And I'm telling you right now, if Quinn doesn't make the playoffs this year, he is gone. He will be fired because they didn't even make the playoffs last year because that round robin, you didn't make the playoffs.
Well, they weren't supposed to last year. So that kind of thing, I wouldn't really hold against him. Again, this kind of season with that kind of division, I don't know if I'm going to hold it against him. Unless they're like last in the division, I really can't see it.
It's going to be very, very interesting. Hockey season is back, ladies and gentlemen. The NBA and the Brooklyn Nets. Oh, I can't wait to watch that disaster. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I'm going to laugh my you-know-what off when this is all over. There's no way the Nets are winning a championship with the team that they have put together right now. There's no size, there's no depth, and there's no bench. So, and there's no defense, by the way. So that's going to be fun to watch. I think the Knicks have a better chance of going further in the playoffs than they do if the Knicks squeak into the playoffs. And that's not saying much. So
the Nets literally just overnight became
stupid.
The Houston Rockets.
It was so stupid. That was a dumb move by Sean Marks. He should be ashamed of himself. You come from the San Antonio Spurs and that organization and you make a move like this? What a crock. Oh, my God.
Putting a bad name to your last name.
What a crock. And as far as the Jets are concerned, they're going to still be interviewing, but don't be surprised by the end of the week that Robert Saleh is the New York Jets football coach. So I'm saying it now. Robert Saleh will be named the New York Jets football coach by Sunday. So remember I said that. That's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back for the Weekend Crunch, as you know, on the FM dial 103.9. If you don't listen to the show, if you're not from New York, you're not from around here, well, it's here on the FM dial here in Long Island. If you miss it, you can actually listen to the replay on our network, on our app. Or, guys, this is what you do. If you want to listen to the show live, download or go to iHeartRadio, LI News Radio, and you can listen to the show live at 7 p.m. on Saturday night. Our shows will be playing after the Islanders games, Islander home games, every single Saturday. So we will be the entertainment after the Islanders whip everybody's ass on Saturdays at home. So, and last year they were pretty good. Their record on Saturdays were pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the regular season, I think the Islanders are like 9-2 or something like that on Saturdays. So
that's what you usually see for baseball.
They were very good in the playoffs too. Saturdays.
I think
too.
they were 3-1. Yeah, on
so
those shows that were pushed because obviously we were doing it that day. So yeah, I think they were 3-1 or something like that on days that the Weekend Crunch followed the Islanders.
Yes. So we're going to be working with the Islanders. We're very excited about that. And yes, I am an Islander fan. So go Islanders and let's go knock out the Rangers.
Well,
2 games, baby.
No.
Thursday and Saturday, we're going to whip there. You know what?
No,
Woo!
not gonna happen.
Yes, it's going to happen.
Nah.
Well, that's it for our show. We will be back on Monday for Down to the Wire. Until then, this is Errol Marks and Speedy Pete. Oh, by the way, before we go, I want to thank Hockey Buzz writer for the Golden Knights, Jeff Paul, and Islanders blog writer, Empire Sports Media writer, Rob Taub, for joining us. I really appreciate you guys joining us and giving us the time in the attack of hockey. We're all happy about hockey being here. The NHL's back, and when the NHL's back, you know what that means. It means I get to smack the hell out of Speedy, and that's what it means. Anyways, that's it for our show. We will be back on Monday. Until then, this is Errol Marks and Speedy Petey saying good night, and we'll talk to you then. Good night, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Edward Lehman has been a trusted insurance advisor for over 16 years with insurance solutions for auto, home, commercial, life, and retirement. He's located at 54 Sunnyside Boulevard, Suite H in Plainview. That's just 1,000 feet south of 495. Local agent, local advice. The time to think about insurance is before you need it. So do yourself a favor, and before you pay your next insurance bill, give Ed and his team a call, 516-935-3900, or visit him online at www.allstate.com/EL. Edward H. Lehman Insurance is your trusted insurance advisor.